or fundability? How does this actually help you get money? Is that even a thing that the phone system that you use actually can be the deciding factor on whether or not you can get a credit card loan or a credit line? Well, surprisingly, it can. And that's exactly what we're going to be decoding during today's training. During today's training, we're going to learn about exactly how the phone number you have, where the phone number is listed, the type of phone system you're using, the type of phone number you're using actually ties into the fundability of your business. And we're going to take a look at a few of the top options you can choose to be able to build your fundability, look good to credit issuers and lenders, as well as also being able to maximize productivity at the same time. So look, does it matter to even have a phone system? What is even really a phone system? Well, back in the day, a phone system used to be you worked in a physical office. These guys came in, you spent a lot of money, and they installed all the phone lines and actual phones and all the cubicles and offices. And look, that's still exactly the same way. If you work in a call center type of environment or office with a lot of different people, a lot of different offices, then that exactly can be the case where you have that. Excuse my phone. The only one that can ever break through and ring me like that is my kids, but I'm sure they could hold on for us for another 30 minutes. But nowadays, phone systems kind of go by a different name, right? Phone systems can be virtual phone numbers. They can be virtual phone systems. They don't have to be landline installed phone systems, but you need to have an actual business phone line, a phone system. If not, then you just don't look right to lenders and credit issuers. You're using a mobile phone, you're using a home phone. And what happens in these instances is that these are housed in databases that lenders and credit issuers' computers know instantaneously what you're using. Their systems will say, this is a mobile phone, this is a home phone, this is a landline, it's a voice over IP. There's these indicators to lenders and credit issuers of exactly what you are doing. So we've got to come in and we've got to build a phone system. We got to get a voice over IP one way or the other, however you want to classify it, as a hardline phone system or a voice over IP type service. You need to do it, because if you don't, you're not separating yourself from the business. And that's what lenders and credit issuers want to see, is that exact separation. It also really is important to your fundability, which really is over 125 factors that tie into your ability to get money from the system. Look, I dedicated my professional career decoding, pulling back the curtain, and figuring out how this whole system works for you to be able to get money. And what I found is pretty shocking, and in a good way. You know, what's shocking about it is that the vast majority of applications for credit financing are denied because of really basic things that you could easily fix. It's not your credit. It's not your income. It's not how long you've been in business in your industry. It's really these 125 fundability factors that tie in to the credibility of you and your business, how your business looks credibly to lenders and credit issuers. And your phone, how you set up the phone, the type of system you have, the number you have, where it's listed, all these are separate factors that tie in to your overall fundability. By the way, if you're just coming in, give me a shout out. Tell me where you're coming in from. Always like saying hello to you and calling you out by name. So why does fundability even matter? Well, again, it offsets problem areas with that actual lenders have with trust. I find it a couple different ways. So being 20 years in financial services, I can tell you this. I owned a mortgage company, and I'll give you an example. FHA mortgages I loved, because FHA mortgages let you do this thing called an LOX, a letter of explanation. And I'm really good at writing letters of explanation, meaning I'm really good at crafting a letter to an underwriter on why this person deserves to have a loan. And that letter usually starts with, here's my negatives, because they already know your negatives. And most people try to hide from those negatives. It says, let's address the elephant in the room. Here's these things that look like they could be problematic for you to want to give me a loan. And then it ties into all the lessons that have been learned and the reason that they should. And these lessons and these reasons they should are called compensating factors. So over 20 years in the financial services industry, I can tell you that many of millions of dollars of funding I've helped secure just by going to an underwriter and explaining the strengths of the deal that they've overlooked, these compensating factors. And a compensating factor is exactly what it sounds like. It's a factor that's positive that kind of compensates for a negative factor. And that's what I like about fundability, is it helps you create all these compensating factors to overcome the fact that, maybe your personal credit's not that good. Maybe your business credit isn't that established. Maybe you haven't been in business a long time, or you're in financial services, which is high risk. Any of these things on their own are okay if you have an overwhelming amount of compensating factors. So that's what I mean by offsetting problem areas to build trust with lenders and credit issuers. Every one of us has defects in our business, problems that lenders and credit issuers are going to look at and would want them to maybe think twice about giving us money. The idea is that they go, I don't know about that, but then they overwhelmingly see positive stuff where they still want to give us money. And that's what fundability really does, is understanding all the basic credibility factors that they look at. These are things you and I can easily control. We can easily choose a non-high risk NAICS and keep high risk terms out of our business name and get an address that makes us look like we're in a reputable location. I could go to Regis for $99 a month. In some locations, I could for $50 or $60 a month get an address which makes me look like I'm in an actual commercial building versus out of my home. All these, getting a professional website, all these things we can easily control, and these give us the compensating factors to cover for weaknesses that maybe we have, such as the fact that our personal credit is damaged. So what do you need in a 411 system? Whenever system you choose, whether it's voice over IP, hardline, doesn't matter. These are the things that you really need to have. You need to have a separate one for your business. You need to have it listed with 411, and it needs to be toll-free. Now, there are some other things too, like you nowadays should have a fax number, even though we don't use it. If they ask for a fax number on the application, you never want to leave that blank, little things like that. But these are the main three factors that you want to consider when actually choosing a phone system for your business. And Mark from Sioux Falls is in the house. What's up? Eric coming in from LinkedIn from Texas. And Amwat, thank you for coming in and saying hello. Always like giving everybody a shout out and throwing your name on the screen. So give me a shout out. Tell me where you're coming in from. And congruent business fundability. This is probably, of all the fundability things that I teach, of these 125 that I go through, the most important of all of them is congruency. Because the number one reason any application for credit and financing is denied is fraud. They think it's fraud when it's not. Okay. And the reality they think it's fraud is because they take your information from your application and they go to verify it in places like Yellow Pages, Yelp, Google My Business. They go to look at your Bing profile. They go to look at your social media or website. And when all this information is incongruent, when it's different, then they can't verify that what they're finding is the company applying. But if I apply under Credit Suite Incorporated and they go online and see Credit Suite Inc. and they see everything being exactly the same, then their computers can validate that all of this that they're finding is the same company. And that is where you really look like a big reputable company. Just think about this for a second. When you start a business, you don't have a Facebook profile, you don't have a Yelp profile, you don't have a Google My Business profile, you don't have Yellow Page listings. None of this exists. But you don't probably go to hundreds of them and set up your business either. What happens is organically in time, Yellow Pages, all these websites, they go in with crawlers and they find your business and they add it. That's how the system works. And so over time, when you're in business and you become longer standing in business and you become more reputable and you have a greater reputation of actually doing business and you're not just testing a theory, you're actually executing a business plan, and now you're bringing in money and getting customers, you get bigger. And what happens is those databases expand. So all of a sudden you go from not being listed anywhere to being listed hundreds of places. That's what lenders' computers are looking for. You can't fake that. A normal business owner is not going to spend months going and listing their business with hundreds of different locations. But when you are listed that way, that's what gives you credibility. So let me give you a simple example. If you know anything about SEO, and over the last 3 months, I've really made it a mission to learn a lot about SEO, and I didn't know a lot. One of the key components of SEO, especially on a local level, is something called citations. It's having your business listed in all of these directories. And the more of these directories your business is listed in, the more credibility Google thinks you have, and the higher you move up in local SEO rankings. So I give you this as an example because it's not just how lenders and credit issuers see it, it's how the world sees it. Lenders, credit issuers, when you talk about your prospects, clients, Google, they all see the businesses that have the credibility are the ones that have all these listings. And when all that stuff is congruent, that goes a long way to giving you even more fundability. K Mantha says, do you help with website, etc.? We, for our partners that offer business credit financing, that's part of our product. So that means when you enroll with us as a partner to offer business credit, having your website, all those things are already built for you. So there, yes, when it comes to actually going out and building a website for your company, I'm not your guy for that, but there's a lot of other reputable companies out there. There's a company out there called Done For You, DFY, that I like quite a bit. His name is Jason Drone. He's a good source for that stuff as well. Shreveport, Louisiana is in the house. Vegas, Albany, New York is in the house as well. Mark says, building credit for 2 businesses. Is it okay to have them both under the same EIN? You can't do that. Business credit is built, linked to an EIN. So think about personal credit. Like you can't build 2 consumer credit profiles under one social. Same thing applies for a business. You can't build 2 business credit profiles under one EIN because a business credit profile is linked to an EIN, just like consumer credit is linked to an SSN. So great question. Thanks for giving me a chance. And Xavi, I think that's your name. Thanks for coming in and saying hello. Appreciate you giving a shout out and saying hi to all of us as well. So is 411 relevant anymore? Yeah, it's an old system. It's a really old system. And this is one of the reasons that a lot of sources still use 411 is because, again, you can't go to 411.com and list yourself. It doesn't happen that way. 411.com isn't 411. 411, like I said, they send their crawlers out. They organically pick up your business, and then they show you on 411. So this is why lenders and credit issuers look at it. Most business owners don't know how to fake a 411 or get past that fact of organically picking it up. So usually you can't even get in the 411 system unless you've been in business a year or more, and you start to list yourself in all these different directories. Now we found one company called listyourself.net, very antiquated technology they use, but what they are doing does work, and it is a way around that to actually get yourself listed with 411. So listyourself.net is probably one of the only sources out there, the only one I've ever found in many years that can actually get you listed with 411. Now, when you choose a phone system, what do you choose? Well, you choose what's called a voice over IP. Okay, and that's basically an online like phone system. It's a Ring Central, it's a Call Rail, it's Freedom Voice. These are all voice over IP. Then you've got a private brand exchange, and you've got analog phones as well. We're going to dive into each one of these. So voice over IP is easy setup for remote offices. You uses internet connection for phone calls, pay as you go, little upfront investment. I mean, you can get these phone numbers for sometimes $10 a month. And depending on what I'm using them for, when I'm building local SEO, things like that, I like CallRail. CallRail is my new favorite voice over IP provider, but there's also other ones out there too, including Reading Central, Freedom Voice, amongst any others. Now, Google, for some reason, Google Phone has given us problems in the past. So we've had some issues with that, getting people approved for credit financing. But those are some examples of what actual voice over IPs are. Now, PBX is best for office settings with multiple employees, generally more work, more money, usually needs an IT person to set up and to help add users. Now, this is what I talked about at the beginning. When I had my mortgage office, we had them come in, they actually build a whole IT person comes in, they put all the phone systems together, they link everything where all the phone systems can transfer phones and calls and stuff like that to each other. It's expensive to put in. You got to pay for all the phones up front, and it's also expensive to maintain. But if you're in a big office building, this is kind of what you have to have. You don't usually work off of voice over IPs, which, by the way, you can. Okay. Even when we were in an office setting, we never had hardline phones. We still had internet phones. But the problem there is that if your internet goes out, you've got problems. If your internet goes out and you have this kind of system, then typically you're not going to have any kind of issues because it's hardwired. And then we have analog 1-2 person office, use landlines from the phone company, referred to as plain old telephone service or POTS. So this isn't as common nowadays. We just don't see this. You're usually going to work in a big office and have PBX, or you're going to be working from somewhere like a virtual environment or a home office, or even in an office and decide to have virtual phones. Voice over IP or virtual phones is one of the most effective things that we've seen now technologically, all of us, advances in phone systems. That's what most of us use now versus even PBX, just because PBX is so expensive. So call forwarding to mobile phones, easy call transfers and routing, ability to keep existing phone numbers. So a lot of different tools that you can actually use nowadays. I like CallRail. CallRail lets me get incoming calls. It automatically records the calls, and you should put a little message there stating, that you're recording the call. It's legal and illegal in some states. I'm not an attorney, not legal advice, but I think that that's a good idea. So I like a system like CallRail because it just gives you a lot of these call forwarding capabilities, recording capabilities, tracking capabilities. Okay, caller ID, call recording, voicemails to email, a lot of cool features that all these phone systems have nowadays that you can take advantage of. And like I said, with CallRail, I like The fact that I can control what shows up on caller ID when a call is forwarded. I like the ease of being able to forward, the ease of being able to plug in a pre-message of before when the phone actually is picked up. It records all the phone calls. But there's so many of these other features out there that really make it very easy that it's for you to have greater productivity on your team. We right now are using Zendesk Talk, and in the past, or we're testing Zendesk Talk, and in the past, we've tested other voice over IP systems, which just have a lot of benefits depending on what you're doing, such as forwarding calls amongst your team. Inbound, outbound SMS, this is big. If you look at all of the statistics, one of the best ways to get in touch with your customers is SMS messages. One of the easiest things that we've done to get more people to webinars, more people to answer sales calls, is we send texts before we make the calls, and people love it. So we'll actually text and say, hey, we've got a business credit appointment in 15 minutes. Just wanted to let you know I'm going to be giving a call, and this is what my phone number is going to look like on caller ID. The minute we did that, we had like 80% increase calls actually being answered. When we started texting people that registered for webinars, and of course, not an attorney, not legal advice, but you got to get permission to do that. So when they would register for the webinar, we'd say, hey, do we have permission to like send you reminder text messages? They say yes. Then we text them, say, just to let you know, like your webinar is about to start in 15 minutes. Then our attendance rate shoots through the roof. So these kind of things are especially you want to look into with productivity tools with phone systems, especially SMS. SMS is currently one of the best ways that you're going to use to get in front of people, especially if you're not abusing it. In-call security, mobile apps are helpful as well, and a lot of mobile apps. Like I said, I'm a real big fan of CallRail. I went from free to voice, which I was a big fan of, to now CallRail. And I love CallRail because I have an app on my phone, and everything I need to do, I can control right from the app on my phone. So a lot of these phone systems have those kind of essentials, which make it easy for you to listen to calls on the go, etc. And I'll do that. Like on vacation, I'll be out there listening to sales calls again and again. I'm like, I don't do well sitting on the beach, right? So if I'm going to sit on the beach with like my kids, because that's what they want to do, I'm like, well, we're going to be present, sit on the beach with them. And while we're all hanging out laying in the sun, then I'm going to be listening to some calls. My app allows me to do those kind of things. So depending on what you need your phone system for, whether it's just you, your team, etc., there's a lot of these type of options. So dial pad, 8x8, Grasshopper, Ring Central, just to name a few. And we talked about several others as well. Also PBX options. You can find local IT professionals, get a quote, shop around, negotiate. You need to. These things are thousands of dollars to install. So if you're going with the PBX system, you got to check with multiple different IT professionals because they're not cheap. And analog, you're typically just dealing with like your local telephone company. And there's not a lot of additional features you're going to get on these like you're able to get with other phone systems as well. So remember, your phone system, what you choose is going to affect fundability. You got to stay away from mobile phone. You got to stay away from home phones. Whether you use a PBX system, whether you use a voice over IP, doesn't make a difference. Try to stay away from Google Voice. Like I said, for some reason, there's some kind of issues with those type of things. You got to get it listed with 411. You need to make it toll free as well, because if the phone number is just a local phone, it's not toll free. It just does not give you credibility. Even if I'm helping companies with local SEO, I'm still coming in and getting them a toll-free number because I understand how powerful the toll-free number is when it comes to overall credibility. So it's something to keep in mind as well. And K Method says, what about 2 to 3 different healthcare businesses like primary, urgent care, other aesthetics, other surgery, all at the same address, different EIN? You can do that. If you have each one that's with a different EIN, you absolutely can do this. But in order to build business credit, you need to have them all set up as separate entities. It's okay if they're at the same location if they don't have similar names. So in business credit building or financing in general, what happens with business credit reporting agencies is they typically look at the business name, okay, and the address. So if you have businesses that all share one address, that's okay. Rings and Regis, Alliance, they all do exactly the same thing, right? But the problem becomes if you come in and have similar names at the same address, that could create basically information on cross-contamination of business credit profiles, which means if I have, for example, we're saying here, you're in primary care, you're in urgent care, you're aesthetics, right? So if I have, I'm in Tampa, downtown, channel side. So if I have channel side primary care, channel side urgent care, and then they're at the same address, that could be a problem because if I try to build business credit for both those companies, because they're at the same location and their name is so similar, I can almost expect that some information is going to get cross-contaminated to each other's business credit reports. So my advice in this situation is that you actually can use the same address. You just need to make sure that the names of the businesses are separate enough where it's not actually going to create overlap, where sometimes sometimes they can actually come in and think that it's one business when it's actually the other business that you're building business credit for. I currently use Grasshopper. What's the name of this app or system? Grasshopper, I don't know. I don't think I understand what your question is, but Grasshopper is a really good system. But at that far, when you mean what's the name of this app or system, I'm not exactly sure what to talk about. I think CallRail is a good one. I think it's CALRAIL, but I think Grasshopper is good as well. Grasshopper can work for you as well. I was told that new U.S. law states that we can't SMS the $500 fine. Again, I'm not an attorney. This isn't legal advice, but I can tell you that if you go look into SMS text messages, you have to have permission to be able to send a text message. And that was what I said when I mentioned that exact strategy, is that you've got to get permission. We get permission on opt-in that says that we have permission to be able to send them text messages as reminders. So you absolutely, without a doubt, have to get permission. If you don't get permission and you start having complaints, I don't know how much the fine is, but I think $500 per occurrence makes sense. It's a lot of money, so you got to be very careful. Can you get SMS via toll-free? SMS usually is only going to work with a text messaging system. So again, if you have a toll-free number, a lot of those don't allow for you to send text messages. So you might want to have a phone number that is your main phone number that you put out in the world, and then another system to send text messages. That's exactly what we do. So hopefully that answers your question there as well. I'm asking for a system that does in and out SMS and phone call when someone registers for course calls. There's a lot of different options you can go with here. What you have to look at is what integrates with your CRM. So I'll give you an example. One of the ones that I like is Fix Your Funnel. Now, Fix Your Funnel does a lot of really cool stuff, but Fix Your Funnel actually works really well with Infusionsoft. So if Infusionsoft is the CRM you're using, then Fix Your Funnel has a bunch of features you can use. And some of the features that they use include the text message ability to send and receive text messages. But I like them because you can have conversational text messages. So I'll give you a simple example. I'm going to speak at a conference this weekend. And when I speak at the conference, all my slides, I'll give away a big bonus package if somebody just texts, the phone number, one word to the phone number. They text a word to the phone number and it's a conversation. Then my text stream automatically says, hey, what's your first name? They say, my name's Andrew. It says, hey, Andrew, what's your email? We can send the free gift to. Okay. So there's a conversational message that actually sends them the package. So I can come in and say, okay, do you want something for free? Well, just text this to this number. I'm able to based on their voluntarily giving me their phone number to put in my system. And then they get a trade-off of $300-400 bonus package. And it all happens automatically using tech from places like Fix Your Funnel. I'm not saying Fix Your Funnel is what you have to go with. What I am saying is that depending on the CRM you're using, you need to find something that integrates with that system. Fix Your Funnel is the best I found for Infusionsoft integration, but depending on your CM, there's all kinds of similar tech that you could potentially use. So hopefully that gives you some feedback. The conversational text messages, yeah, that's what I love. I love the text messages too, because I think it's a great way. When I speak on stages, it's just a great way to get everybody's information in the room. And if you do it right, half the people in the room will text in. Meaning I have a $500,000 value package that I say, hey, look, if you want this package, all you have to do is just email or, text this to this number. They do it. And within, 40 seconds, they actually have it delivered into their email box. I do nothing. And all those email addresses and phone numbers come right into my CRM. So there's a lot of different strategies, but I think that that's an effective way to do it as well. Do you have a name of one that you recommend? I'm not exactly sure. For the conversational text, I use Fix Your Funnel. This is what I use for my conversational text messages as well. So hopefully that helps you there. And Stardeek says, what is the best and most economic phone system would you suggest for a one-member company that is just starting like mine? Personally, what I think is that you have to go with the features that work best for you. My favorite is CallRail. I really like CallRail a lot, but I also like RingCentral and I like Freedom Voice. I find CallRail is just easy to use and it's cheaper, but I've used Freedom Voice and RingCentral. So I don't really have a favorite. I think it depends on what features you need, what's important to you. And once you figure out, hey, these are the top, look at each one of them and say, well, this one has this features, this has this features, this has this. I don't need this. I don't care. And you'll kind of narrow it down. But I like all three of them, RingCentral, CallRail, and I also like Freedom Voice. But you got to look at them. There's a difference in price points. There's a different features to kind of figure out what may work for you. So hopefully that answers everybody's questions. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today. If you got value from this training, then go make sure you visit creditsuite.com/toolbox. There we have a toolbox worth about $400 worth of goodies that will help you build business credit and get financing. And all you have to do to get them is just like share. You share our live stream even one time and you're able to access our toolbox. All you have to do is go to creditsuite.com/toolbox to learn more. And also, if you got value, make sure you like and subscribe. Take less than a minute to go to creditsuite.com, like and subscribe on our channels. We have daily tips on places like Facebook and Twitter, 1-minute videos on Insta and TikTok, thousands of videos on YouTube, a podcast you can listen to on the go, and give us a call for a free finance assessment. We will do a fundability check. We'll look at your phone number amongst other things to see where you stand fundability wise, give you help there, give you tips and tactics to be able to build your business credit, and we'll do a funding qualification to tell you all the financing you can qualify for right now. It all happens 100% for free for a free finance assessment. All you have to do is give us a call at 877-600-2487, 877-600-2487. For anybody in or around the Miami area or interested in coming to Florida this week, we'll be speaking at the Done is Better Than Perfect event at the Fort Lauderdale Convention Center. So if you don't know about that, go check out Facebook. Look as Done is Better Than Perfect group, and all the information you need is right there to be able to attend the event. A lot of great speakers there, and I'll be on stage talking about business credit building, offering business credit and service. So I'd love to see you there. So I don't have any other questions coming in. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you on our next training where we talk about more cool ways to get the money you need to start and grow